Hello, everybody. My name is Mo Patel. You're watching the Smoking Hot Coffee Show every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We talk to startup founders and other people in the startup world. Today, I'm joined with,
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Pelton down here in San Diego.
and we had another great interview today with Lauren. She is a joint venture strategic partnerships expert, has worked with massive sites like Squidoo, one of the top 60th site on the whole internet. And she talked to us a little briefly about what she did over there, how she built the startups, or how she helped Squidoo build relationships with GE, and how to develop relationships with other big brands like American Express. We even talked about a small startup that she's building herself, where she helps creative artists help them market themselves better. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is definitely applicable if you're a budding startup and you're a small team and you're trying to figure out a way to get a lot of exposure with, and you don't have a lot of money, and how you can set yourself up for that. And so there were a lot of really great tactics that she shared along the way. Jeff, can you just give us a brief overview of what S&M is all about?
Yeah, really great tactics that Lauren shares with us today. Yeah, I mean, she's got this product coming out that she'll tell us a little bit about, but I think her story of how she moved to New York and decided to kind of give this a go really is a touching story. Emotional, right? And a lot of people are struggling to take those first steps and really trying to take the plunge in entrepreneurship. And Lauren shares some of the, I think, fundamentals with us that shouldn't be looked over, like making sure that you take care of yourself and that you're healthy and that you take vacations from work and are well-rounded, because it affects your work. And so I like some of the tips and tricks that she gives us around that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Here I am starting off with all the tactics of how to build your startup and how to get exposure, but also
There's a lot in there.
as an entrepreneur, there's all these emotions that you're going through, the constant chaos, trying to figure out how to get some traction, how to take care of yourself, and how to bring your A game. You're not going to be able to do your A game if you're working 80-hour days, or 80-hour weeks rather, and you're just, all it is work. So we talked a lot about that work-life balance and how important that is. There was a lot of great information in this interview. She was really sort of honest and shared tons of stuff with how to getting traction with these brands and how to build strategic partnerships, tactics of how to reach out to important people on LinkedIn using InMail, that kind of thing. So if you want to learn about all that stuff, definitely check it out. For those of you that want to send us email, we look forward to those. That's info@smokinghotcoffee.com, and you can subscribe to us from many different channels. Jeff?
Yeah, please go to our website at smokinghotcoffee.com, and you can find the subscribe button where all the channels that we publish to: YouTube, Stitcher, and iTunes, and the rest.
Great. And so with that, let's cut to our show. Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. How you doing?
Doing fabulous. How are you guys doing? Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're doing great. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Yes, so yeah, I've been very excited to have you on. You were a referral from Esprit Devora, a local entrepreneur here in LA. Really briefly, tell me about your tenure at Squidoo and what it was like working there and doing the
It's been awesome.
strategic partnerships, all that stuff. Give us a little bit about your background and what your what's your sort of expertise in the internet industry.
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, I moved to New York. I had a real estate business in Buffalo, New York. I was like literally flipping houses the way that you see on TV. I decided I didn't like that anymore. So with $2,000 in my bank account, I made this brash move to go to New York City and said, I'm going to figure it out. So a lot of pitching and a lot of soul searching and pitching. I ended up working with Seth Godin at the Domino Project, and I was the VP of Strategic Partnerships. So I did that for, I think it was about 5 or 6 months. Ended up closing over $250,000 in sales. I had no sales experience at that point. I didn't really know formally what I was doing. Did such a good job that Seth recruited me to be the VP of sales at his other company, Squidoo, the 60th largest website in the United States,
Right.
which is like a blogging platform for people. It's an easy way to share information for people who aren't really technically savvy.
Right.
And I stayed there for a year.
And so Squidoo,
And then-
Squidoo, for those that don't know, it allows anybody to create their own blog, and you share the AdSense and the monetization revenue with the author of that blog. Is that correct? And it's also a very, very popular site. Tons of bloggers use it. That must have been really exciting to have gotten on that project.
Yeah, the real excitement I think was, so the real excitement was coming to New York and being able to work with an outstanding team, and at such a young age being given the reign to basically build out the sales division in a very prominent, well-to-do internet company. I mean, at the time I was 24, 25, so yeah, I think that in terms of track record, I was pretty pleased. It was exciting.
And you said, did you say it's in the top 100 most trafficked websites in the world? Is that correct?
In the United States, Squidoo is, yeah.
Wow, that is incredible.
Well, Lauren, let's go back to when you moved to New York. How did you convince Seth Godin to let you work for him?
Yeah.
You make that sound easy with no experience. You said pitching, but what's the trick behind that?
So if you go, for those of you watching, if you go to my website or if you go to Google and it says you can Google Lauren Seth Godin, pick me as your next intern. Okay. On Google, you'll see a blog post that I did years ago, which is basically an application. I'd only been following his work for about 3 weeks, his blog, and he sent out a blog post that's like, apprentices welcome. And he had this publishing project that he's like, I'm looking for 3 people. You're going to work a lot, the pay's going to be decent, and you're going to learn a ton. And so that's what I was looking for, the opportunity for someone to give me the chance to do something great. And to be totally honest, I was tired of freelancing for anywhere from 15 to 50 an hour. At that point, I was about to be broke, and it was either make it or break it. And I spent an entire week, it shows in the application, hunting down all the people he worked with in the past, finding out information for how best to work with him. And when I got the interview, it was a group interview, and I felt like a total underdog. I was this random chick from Buffalo, New York, who had a real estate company in a room full of people who had 10,000 Twitter followers. I had 5 at the time.
Right.
And so I just decided to be totally myself. I'm like, they're either going to love me or they're going to hate me, and I'm just going to do it. And I did it. And that night he got an email, I got the job, and I just cried. I went to sleep and I cried. I hadn't slept in a week. I was like, I can pay the bills for another 5 months. And I had no idea what was ahead of me and how challenging and beautifully wonderful it was going to be. So.
Wow, congratulations. I mean, that's an amazing first step. I think a lot of our audience is in those same sort of shoes, trying to decide if they want to keep freelancing and, by the shoelaces or if they want to go out there and try to make it. Yeah. That's a story.
And the piece about that is I had about $15,000 in credit card debt.
Wow.
From my first business, I approached it like a student. I was like, well, if you spend a lot of money and you learn a lot, money is going to come. So I paid a lot of money for real estate courses on how to build a business. And while I totally value the information, I went to New York without not making a lot of money, paying down about $900 in credit card debt a month. I came out of that debt in a year. So you guys can totally do it. If you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like shit, I'm racking up debt and I feel like a loser, you got to do what you got to do to start your business, no judgment, and you can totally make miracles happen. You can totally do it. So.
Well, that's awesome. I'd love for us to now start getting into the tactics of what some of these strategic partnerships that you did do at the Domino and Squidoo and some of the early fails and some of the wins and lessons out of that.
Mm-hmm. So the Domino project for me was so why don't you can you give me do you want maybe my top 3 insights, how to sort of top 3 sales insights for partnerships?
Okay, so let's actually backtrack a little bit. What exactly is a strategic partnership? What exactly is a joint venture in your opinion? And then once we define it, how do you go about doing it? And then maybe we can go into a fail or a win.
Okay. So strategic partnerships are when you look at a different company or a different person, someone that you want to have a relationship with, and you say, how is it that we can use our assets and resources in a way that makes sense for your company and that moves both of our, goals forward. Okay. For a lot of startups, strategic partnerships look like, in the beginning especially, doing some sort of free in exchange for credibility. So the larger company gets to use the technology and the resources of the smaller one, the innovation and such that they may not have. And then the smaller company gets to brag and say, you know, within our first 3 months, we landed American Express as a client.
Okay.
So that's, for example, a strategic partnership. It can be anything. And in terms of assets, you can gauge it in a lot of different ways. You're either getting money as a startup, you're getting credibility, or you're getting access to people and to reach. So you may not get paid a lot, but you are now shown in front of, like if you look at Black Eyed Peas, when the iPod first came out, Black Eyed Peas were approached the band and said, hey, we want you to be in the commercial. We're not going to pay you anything, but we'll give you an iPod. Look what happened for Black Eyed Peas. That's a strategic partnership. They were on the commercial. They didn't get paid a whole ton, but now I think it paid off in the long run because of the reach that they got.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So what you're doing is, as a young startup, or as maybe if you've got some technology, you want to think about what larger company, what are some of the sites that are out there, other companies that I can possibly connect with, and possibly use my widget, use my technology on their site, and maybe add powered by or something like that, so I can get exposure on a larger site or through their media, maybe a commercial or something like that. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, so strategic partnerships are valuable because to go sell something, you have to ask yourself, like, what is it I'm looking to create? And when you're first starting off, a lot of the times you're not looking to close a deal for a big check. Like, most times you're looking to make a small win, which is, I want to get in the door and have this company know me. I want to find the decision maker. Those are small wins that when you add them up lead to something like, when I go, like, let's say my first sale is I close a $1,000 deal with Kraft, for example. That in money terms looks small, but that allows me to go to my next meeting with Amex and say, hey guys, we're on the Kraft platform. This is what we're doing with them. They're loving it. People don't like to be the first one to make the decision, especially in corporate. So those small wins of building respect and credibility with influential people in your industry will go a huge way. I'm not selling to Fortune 500 companies anymore, but I still have my relationships, and they still trust my recommendations and the people I send their way.
Right.
So you definitely want to build those initial sort of small wins to brag and have something to say. This is what we're doing. This is what we're accomplishing. And we'd like to do more of this with you and grow with you to help you further your goals. It's really about them. It's not about you.
Got you. So you want to look at what you have to offer, and then what is the next step if you found and identified certain companies within your sector? Do you go on LinkedIn? Do you go to the actual site itself and start to figure out who the president is and the sort of directors are, and then do you email them directly, or how do you actually connect with some of these people?
This is a good one. This is actually a specialty. Like, I'm great at hunting people down, so I'll give you sort of my my tiger net.
Let's hear all the tricks. I want to hear all the secrets. If you got them,
all the
share
tricks. Okay. So the first thing is you want to building relationships first. If you have any relationships in your industry, look to get an introduction from someone that person respects. I've had people who want to introduce me to other people. Let's say Joe wants to introduce me to Sam, but Joe doesn't really know Sam that well, so the introduction is kind of weak and a little bit strange. Make sure that person that's introducing you is trusted and respected. That seems like common sense, but sometimes we're in such a rush we forget that part. So if you have an introduction,
how do you figure
go with that first.
How do you figure that out? How do you know if Bob knows Bill really well, or if they're just random connections on LinkedIn? How do you know if there actually is a stronger connection?
So the first thing, I go with my intuition. I go with my gut. You know those people that you meet at networking parties, and your first gut reaction is like, whoa, this dude is all in my face, kind of creepy. He's probably gonna try to invite you to some, Amway meeting, but not. You know what I mean? There's just sort of you can't really get a feel for him if you don't trust him. Right. Give it some time before you take introductions, in my opinion. And then if you think you trust him, you can ask him a question let's say for example, Joe says to me, Lauren, I'd love to introduce you to these guys. They're the head of digital over at Amex. They'd probably love to talk to you. Dude, that's great. How did you end up meeting them? I'd love to have some more information, so I can make us both good. Okay. And then let them tell you how they know them. And you sort of get an idea of the relationship, and it helps you talk positively about your friend when you do have the introduction. the one that actually introduced you to. You can sort of like talk him up because, again, that's helping him. Right. So you want to do some research beforehand.
Gotcha.
In terms of what you do so first thing is introduction. I know people who, I recently spoke to a startup, one of the top startups in Canada. They're doing really well, and they called me because they wanted to do a PR campaign. And they're like, we want to get press, what should we do? And he had this entire cold call strategy. And we had just, mind you, come back from a conference in Toronto that had like the head of FreshBooks, like the founder of FreshBooks, like Mark Echo, like you name it was at this party, and there were about 50 of us. And I'm like, dude, why are you creating a cold call strategy when you have all of these contacts? I bet you know 50 journalists, all them. So a lot of the times we're afraid to use our contacts. If you've built your relationships right, don't be. They need good stories, and you just need to know how to pitch them. The second thing is use LinkedIn. For sure, use LinkedIn. Get a pro account if you can. I had a pro account for a year. InMail has a much higher rate of return than just straight up email. It also allows to show the people you have in common.
Right.
And it's gotten me in contact. Like I think I got in contact with Motorola, like the CMO of Motorola through LinkedIn, because he used to be the CMO of Pizza Hut. And I asked him a question like, hey man, do you remember those like personal pan pizzas for when you would like, it was like a book club they used to do or something when I was a kid. And he was so thrilled about it that he wrote back to me. I didn't close a deal with him, but it was really effective at getting people on the phone and responding.
Wow.
LinkedIn email, sure.
These are both great tactics. So let's get into what you did over, with Squidoo and the Domino Project. What are some of the early wins there and some of the early fails? Can you share some of that?
So probably one of my favorite stories for wins was with the Domino Project, where we did a strategic partnership with Shopify, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, number one e-commerce platform. Yeah, so at that time, so just to give you some background too, the way that I became head of strategic partnerships, Seth drew a bunch of names on the board, titles, and he said, everyone pick what you want to do. And everyone sort of rushed to the board and they chose what they were going to do. I didn't have any idea what I wanted, so there were only two options left, and it was dealing with Amazon, like managing, and selling in partnerships. And I was like, well, I guess I'll do this. So 2 weeks into this, I get an email from a coworker at the Domino Project. It's like, listen, this company emailed us. It looks like they want to do some work with us. Not really sure what it is, but this is probably your field, so I'm going to send it over to you. So within a month, we ended up closing, I think it was a little over $150K with them. It was a pretty substantial deal. And we sold a ton of books. And I think that sort of set a really high bar for working at the Domino Project, because that was my first deal. And again, I was literally making shit up.
So sorry to cut you off. I want to hear more about this. So tell us a little bit of background on the Domino Project for those that don't know.
So the Domino Project, like the music industry, the old way of doing records and books, like those are ancient, and those systems are quickly failing. So Seth created the Domino Project in partnership with Amazon. It was just a new publishing platform. So if you're an author, you want to write a book, you want to do it fast, and you want to reach a lot of people, you would go through us. We focused on primarily business books, new authors. We worked with Derek Sivers, Stephen Pressfield. I'm thinking of a few others that Seth wrote a book for it as well. We did 12 bestsellers in 12 months, and it was really, really successful. And we had the awesome opportunity to work with Amazon. They were our distribution platform. So that is incredible.
So this is
Amazon on your side.
This is a platform for independent authors to bypass their traditional publishing system and then go through the Domino Projects to self-publish. And Domino Project is the publisher, with Amazon being
the publisher,
and Amazon doing the distribution and e-commerce and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And so you were trying to help Domino Project get more authors on board, or were you trying to help Amazon sell more of the actual products?
So I was doing two things. We were selling books in a lot of different ways, and then we were doing sponsorships. So we would go to General Electric. We would go to General Electric and say, we have this book, and it's going to be a bestseller, and it's about X, Y, and Z, and you could sponsor this book, and we would create like a unique package for them, and that might be a $50,000 sponsorship. And that would fund the book, and then the money would go to the publisher as well as to the author, and it was a great deal. So we would get, the thing is, when they sponsored the book, that book would be given away for free for a certain amount of time in digital. So when General Electric sponsored Poke the Box by Seth, then for like 2 weeks, it was actually more like a month, you could download that book for free off Amazon. So we ended up distributing, I think it was literally 1 million copies in the year of all the books that we did, because we were giving them away for free.
Wow.
So it allowed, the sharing of powerful ideas for free. It gave the authors a lot more cash up front than they ever would have got without the sponsorships. And it was just a fun model to play with. We met some awesome people.
This is really incredible. So you hooked up General Electric and Shopify to help promote a book that's part of Seth Godin's sort of publishing platform.
We had a few other partnerships too. The General Electric, I came in halfway towards like the tail end. Seth had really already set that up.
Okay.
I came in for the remaining partnerships.
This is really exciting. These are huge partners, Lauren. For a young person, this must have been like so exciting. Like, wow, you're hobnobbing with all these like big players. That's great.
Dude, I was calling up CEOs of all these startups. When I tell you I didn't know what I was selling, I was just making it up on the phone. I was like, so yeah, I knew we had books, and I knew we had distribution,
right,
and I was happy to sort of make whatever they wanted, so long as they trusted us and they knew that we could do it. So like, I was talking to like Dropbox, you name it. I was calling anybody up I knew. And I'm just happy they took a call with me, because again, I was making it up.
Listen, Lauren, there's a ton of guys and gals in their mid to late 20s, 30s that are creating startups in their bedrooms or out of work, and they're really small teams. It's scary calling up the head of Dropbox or the head of GE. Like, you're like, I'm just a nobody. How did you get over that fear? Like, how did you do this?
So I think that people have different forces that drive them. For me, one, I was to prove myself. I mean, let's be honest. I'm working with #1 marketer in the world. I have a team of all-stars, and I've been given the task, every month we launch a book, and we have to have a sponsorship for it. That gives me 30 days to secure a sponsorship. And I assumed that everyone in the room was smarter than me. And so I'm like, I have to prove myself. So the excitement and the driving, the mission-driven mentality kept me focused and motivated, and it had a lot to do with the team. I'm a leader at heart. If I don't have a team, I don't understand what I'm doing. Like, I like to lead.
Okay.
And so in that instance, I felt like they were depending on me, and that sort of pressure led me to work really, really hard. And the authors too, because if I didn't get a sponsorship, I didn't want to be the one to say that, Stephen Pressfield, hey, by the way, we didn't get a sponsorship this round.
Right,
and
right,
it just,
right.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, I think, Lauren, you hit on something so huge right there, that sense of responsibility once you have several other people are a part of your team, and you're feeling like, like, I got to deliver,
Mm-hmm.
I got to do this, I got a deadline, and all that.
A little bit of pressure and a due date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole
and
team
I have a
behind
due
you.
date every 30 days. Yeah. For sure.
Wow.
For sure. But and I was going to say one other thing. For people that are doing any kind of sales, it is so important to take care of yourself. Like, whatever it is that you enjoy that feeds you, sales is so much about who you are and just if people like and trust you. It's like, do they want to, do the person you're selling to, do they look cooler, smarter, and can they trust you to not screw up royally by working with you? And you're a more enjoyable person, you're more effective if you take care of yourself. So people who talk about, working 80 hours a week, like, in my opinion, overworking is a fear of, excuse my language, effing up. Like, if you work 24/7, you don't have to make any decisions about where you're going to spend your time. But if you do the scary stuff and you really spend your time and focus on key leads, that is 1,000 times scarier and 1,000 times more effective.
Wow.
If you call everyone and their mom cold calling, you shouldn't be cold calling. Like, you should be building relationships and getting introductions. Cold calling, don't do it. I did it. It doesn't work.
Listen, I love this, Lauren. Unfortunately, I'm one of those guys that are always working all the time, and I think you're absolutely right. I think maybe I do have this fear of, like, I'm gonna screw it up. I bet I should just overwork myself to try to overcome this fear.
Yeah, man.
And maybe I should just, like, cut my hair off on the side here and be like, screw it. I'm just gonna go after the top 10. I'm just gonna kill it and build these huge partnerships. I'm only gonna work 4 or 5 hours a day, and I'm gonna be working out of the gym and building up my physical strength to get my mental thing going.
Go surfing or something, right? So what do like, burnout is a huge issue, and especially with entrepreneurship, and it's tough, and people hate to talk about how difficult it is or be honest about it, right? It's like, yeah, every day I'm doing great. What do you do personally to get outside of the office, or get outside in general?
And I just want to be clear. The reason, like, I'm talking about this is because I have such a tendency to be a workaholic. Like, it's easy for me to, like, in New York especially, it's cool to always be working or always be doing something. So I've had to, like, actively check myself. So what do? Like, today I've been working since 10 a.m. It's about 5 p.m. where we're at. I'm going to, after this, go for a run and do a workout, and then I'm going to jump back on the computer to do some more work. It's about every day picking something that makes you happy, that takes you out of your head. Like, go running, go talk to someone new, consciously not talk about business. And from that, you're rejuvenated, you have more inspiration. For me, every time I travel, I have, like, the best ideas. And then I come back, and it's like, of course we're going to do this partnership. And then I'm just like, you should know that person should know you. Bam, bam, bam. They make a lot of money, and everyone's happy. Wow. So find what inspires you, and every day get out of the house and do something physical. And on top of that, stop feeding yourself shit. Like, I used to eat ramen, like, 24/7, and if you're sensitive, if you're brilliant, you're probably sensitive, which means you got to take care of your body. Like, we like to think we'll worry about that later, but have you ever been sick during a launch or during a major closing of a deal? Not a fun time. So having more fun too, like, just for me, it's travel, eating right, and kicking my ass in a good workout every single day. So that's what I do.
No, I think that's a great, habit to live by. It's hard for some of us, like you said, it's easy to fall back into that habit of just, I'm going to sit here and get work done. You find any, real quick, maybe an aside topic, but do you find any of the technology that we're seeing on mobiles and anything help you with any of that? Do you use Runkeeper or anything to, track your health and well-being outside of the, the business stressors?
I try to keep it. I was using Lyft for a while, and then I was also using Fitocracy for a bit, and I found that did the opposite, because it put me right back in my head, right? Because I have to basically I have to find the workout, track it. Things that automate it, like I'm doing this 5K app, it tells me what to do. I don't think about it. I do nothing but press go. So things that are automated that don't require you to set something up and think are preferred. And honestly, we don't need apps to go running. We don't need apps to go call up our mom and say, hey, Mom, it's been like a few weeks. I'm wondering how you're doing. Like, all the stuff we think can wait till one day when we're rich are the things that will bite us in the ass if we don't pay attention to now.
One
last thing is, when you take care of yourself, it's a power move. Like, we tend to think that, like, super successful, only people like Richard Branson can afford to take a break because they're already successful. So when you take breaks, you're sending the signal to people that you're already successful, because the assumption is, culturally, you only take breaks once you are. So if you are balanced, so to speak, like if you take trips and all that other stuff, you're actually sending the signal of success, which builds intrigue, which makes people want to work with you more in terms of sales. So there's also a legitimate tactical side to that.
I like that. So Lauren, if we can go back to the small person, small guy, gal operating, trying to build their startup, trying to set up a joint venture with a big company, do you have any suggestions on how to how to get some of that sort of credibility, or get some of that sort of like, we're, even though we're small, we're able to deliver. We've got some great technology. Do you have any suggestions there? If you got a big company wondering, are these people going to be able to deliver? Should I trust them? That kind of thing.
So the first thing is figuring out whatever company you're after, ask yourself if you can really help them. Like if it's a company that's a really big name, but that they're not really doing anything related to what you're currently doing, and they're not really in the industry that you probably want to be in, I would sort of say don't worry about those guys. Like they might be the sexy people to work with, but ultimately they're not going to help you build your business. So let's say, for example, we're going to pick Amex, American Express, which, insider tip, American Express is notoriously slow. So if you are currently working on a deal with them, be prepared to spend about 9 months to a year plus in closing that deal.
Wow.
They are just notoriously slow in getting stuff done. So insider tip. So let's say we choose Amex, right? And these companies have like so many different offices and different like departments. Let's say it's digital marketing. I would look up currently what they're doing in digital media. I would find out where they're spending their time, where they're spending their advertising, what conferences are they attending, are they speaking at these different things, and start to figure out, you put your money where your mouth is. What do they value, and follow that dollar trail. And then let's say they're attending, and then there's sort of the things that aren't so obvious. They're attending a conference about, let's say, Facebook ads, but they're not using Facebook ads. So that tells me they're interested in new technology that maybe they don't know how to use, or they're not sure when, where and how to use it. So it's okay, they're already doing this, so I know I could probably sell them on doing that better, faster, with someone more credible. And they're looking into this, and they're educating themselves, which means maybe they're currently working with someone, maybe they're not, they're figuring it out. Based on that, and finding the decision maker, you sit down and you have a conversation that builds credibility and trust. Like, hey Joe, how you doing? I'm Lauren from this company. Why don't you guys, like a first date, why don't you tell me a bit about what it is that you're looking to do? I've seen you're kind of playing around with Facebook. You're doing this, and that. But give it to me straight. Like, what are you guys looking to do? What are your goals for the next 6 to 12 months? And you have a regular conversation. With a Fortune 500 company, because it's probably going to take so long, that conversation is going to be dragged out for a long period of time. So you got to learn to talk a lot and make them trust you just a little bit more each and every time.
Build the relationship.
Yeah, and then see if you can get like a small win. Like, let's say you're a startup and you're currently only offering like a $20,000 offering. And you find out that Amex is like, well, you know what we really need? We need like, I don't even know, we need sort of, we need someone to sort of source different apps or something. I don't know, we need an app that does X, Y, and Z. And you have the technology, but you just never thought to sell it to them. Right. Go sell that. Go sell that to them, because if it works with that, for logistical reasons, you're already in the system, you're already a trusted vendor. That's a process in and of itself. You get money in the door, and now you get to brag to the world and say, I'm talking to, I'm working with Amex. Ooh, that's my dog. Give me 1 sec. Stop. The second piece is, here's another trick. If you are not currently working with anyone that's worthwhile, start a conversation with a company, a legitimate one, and in your sales conversations, tell people, we're currently in talks with A, B, and C. So let's say I've been having 5 meetings with Amex, but being solid. When I talk to Kraft, you damn well better believe I'm going to mention, currently we're talking to Joe over at Amex. We're talking to Susie over at, I don't know, Blaisdell Pizza. Right. And, this is some of the stuff we're looking to do. I'm really wondering what interests you. Right. You see how you're kind of like seeding the story of, you can trust me. Right. Other people just like you are talking to me. Right. It's the pretty girl thing.
No, I love that.
Pretty girl wants to know that you're not a creep.
Exactly. If you're talking to the other pretty girls, they're like, oh, he's talking to the other pretty girls, so he's not a creep. Gotcha. Yeah, and I must be pretty thereby because he only talks to pretty girls. So it's also sort of like a, like look at Warby Parker. Warby Parker's a cool company. Mm-hmm. Now if a Fortune 500 brand works with Warby, they're not working with a startup. They're working with the cool, trendy company who, through alignment, they get to be cool too. Yeah. And another insider tip, so many of these Fortune 500 people, especially if you're in digital,
they envy your position. A lot of them have families. They want to work in startups. They want to be more creative, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't want to take the pay cut. So them working with you helps them feel innovative and creative, and it sort of feeds that, that piece of them that they don't get at a regular Fortune 500 company.
Gotcha.
So you're the cool kid in this instance,
right?
And they get to be cool by hanging out with you. So remember that.
Gotcha. I love
That's
that.
a great piece of advice to approach it from
Absolutely.
that point of view.
Well, so Lauren, this is a great segue into what you're working on next. Earlier, before we got on the call, you talked about a launch that you're in the middle of. So tell us about this product or the service that you're working on.
Yeah, so we are so my business partner and I'm doing a joint venture, go figure, strategic partnership with a good friend, Sophie Solomon. She does seven figures in real estate every year, and she works part-time. And the product that we're creating is to help creative entrepreneurs get through the obstacles and get better at sales, marketing, and self-promotion. A lot of people, when they start off, it's like an awkward, strange process to go off on your own, promote your work. And we've been there, we've done that, and we're really good at it, not trying to there's a self-promo, but we've had success with it, and we're happy people. So we want to help more people do that, and it's a totally untraditional way. You're not going to get this information anywhere else. We do things very differently, and we're going to be launching it sometime in October, and there's going to be some free treats in the coming weeks. So the site that you're showing, we're going to be putting up some free world-class training.
Okay, so let me get this straight, Lauren. So this is a subscription site, I'm assuming, a service where you train craftspeople, technologists that have created a product but don't know how to do marketing and sales. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
and it's going to be a course. So it's a course for this round. It may end up being a subscription model in the future.
Okay.
But for this time around, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks.
I love that. I love this.
For everyone that's listening, it's smlaunch.com.
Yep, smlaunch.com.
And I'm surprised that no one thought of that, S&M, like sales and marketing. I know it's a play on words, but I was like, I can't believe no one's thought to use that. I mean, we're not referencing the other S&M, but I don't know. I just thought that was funny. So random tangent.
It's good. It's good. Well,
it's a cool site. Yeah, we're looking forward to see when you guys spruce it up. Like you said, you were going to be updating in a couple days.
Well, yep.
It'll be a fun design.
It's going to be a new site in the next few days.
So Lauren,
thank you.
So Lauren, let's talk about how you can use your joint venture and strategic partnerships skills in this venture of yours. Are you reaching out to some of the larger communities that have artists or technologists, small programmers, to try to help promote this, or are you going to do this some other way? How are you promoting this product or service?
So we're promoting this through, so let's see, so I have the whole image in my head and I'm thinking of how to break it down. So for this, joint ventures look like a lot of blogger partnerships, working with other people who have similar audiences, and basically offering forth free information. When you do a launch, you're going to have people that fall into two camps. They're going to be people, if you're doing promotions, you have people that know you and trust you and are going to promote it because they know you and trust you and like you, and they expect nothing in return. Because when their thing goes live, you're probably going to promote it because you're their friend too.
Right.
The second camp are people that aren't your friends, that they also have businesses and they need to sort of serve their people's needs. In this instance, we're serving the need of education, so similar to this, I'm able to give blog information and trainings and such. Larger websites and larger bloggers are always looking for this information. And if they trust and like you and they realize that you're credible, it allows you to teach people, change their lives, I'm hoping, and then also let them know, dude, if you want to know more information, come check this out. It's a very soft sale, again, totally relationship driven. And I have a full team I'm working with. I have a head of outreach and partnerships, a business partner. We have a full marketing strategist. I love the team thing, and the goal here is really helping as many people as we can. So going about it the right way is sort of our philosophy.
Can you share some of the tactics, because there's thousands and thousands of blogs out there. How do you find a set of, let's say, 50 or 100 or a couple of 1,000 or whatever it is. How did you go about finding these bloggers?
This is a good one. I'm surprised I haven't been telling you guys this, but I will. So one of the quickest ways is look at who you want to be like and search them on Google. So like if you want to be like a Seth Godin, right? Seth is really big. I'm trying to think of someone. Let's say Ramit Sethi, for example, who, a founder. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He writes for I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And you probably fall into his industry, kind of. Pick one of his pieces and Google him, and you're going to come up with all the different blogs and places that he's guest posted. So again, you're talking about when you want to sell something, you're either selling someone something they might use in the future or they're currently looking for now. So let's say he wrote for Forbes. Well, I can go to Forbes and say, well, Ramit, our work is similar in this way. I'm credible in this way. I don't literally say it like that, but I kind of say it like that. And then this is what I'm thinking of writing. I think that your audience would love it. P.S. I just did a post for Etsy, and they said it was their most popular marketing piece to date. That thing had hundreds of thousands. No, it was over 1 million views in something like 48 hours. So, and you know what I mean? And then what that tells them is it's like, oh shit, like people like her content. Right. She's worked with a reputable person, and her stuff is even kind of similar to something else we ran. That seems safe and cool. We need new content every day. Right. Let's try running it. And another insider tip is, guys, if you're looking to grow your list, you really want to focus on people who have active communities. So if you're doing something like a Forbes or an Inc., from my experience, that gives you credibility. Unless you're on like the main page, that allows you to say things like, that allows you to get in the door for other bigger pieces of editorial, maybe like in print in Forbes. But if you want to grow your list, working with bloggers who have direct email access, who have cultivated trusting relationships, in my opinion, is a much more effective way to grow your reach in a tangible way.
Yeah, I think this is genius, Lauren. Looking at where Ramit has possibly guest posted as sort of your target blogger outreach, it's genius. I love it.
Yeah. So for me, Ramit's not my target, but let's say for a developer, right? Like I would pick someone in my industry. Like if I'm a graphic designer, I'd look at what I naturally read, and I would look at people that I kind of follow who show up in my graphic design, industry, whatever blogs I read, and I would go Google them and see where they're showing up. They may not only be writing for design sites; they're probably writing for business sites, lifestyle sites. It's not the topic that's limiting. You just have to prove that your information is valuable to that audience.
Gotcha. Well, so Jeff and I are both in the content business here, and we're trying to figure out a way to move to a subscription model. How do we go about taking all the content that we've done and piecing it up into a small digestible piece and then pitching that? How are you guys doing? Are you guys taking your course and just taking the best piece and then turn that into an article? How are you doing this?
So you want to ask yourself before you go do it, are you the... Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. Looks like...
You're back?
Crash. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Oh, but he's on mute.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
You're back?
Yes, I am.
Well, that's live. So I'll answer your question. You want to first decide if you're the cargo or the railroad tracks, and I'll explain what that means. So cargo is information. You produce it, and as a standalone, it just sits there. You have nowhere to send it. So that could be kind of equivalent to a website. Anything that's information-based, a book, anything that you can hold in your hand or digitally hold in your hand. The railroad tracks are the distribution. That's where the most money and the most influence always is. What do you bomb first in a war? Transportation. You bomb the railroad tracks. You bomb the airplane, because that's the most valuable. So, yes, great content is so important, but great content without distribution is almost meaningless, right? If no one sees it.
Right.
So for you have to ask yourself, are you going to build the railroad tracks, or are you going to just use other people's? which means you're going to use other people's audiences to sell whatever it is that you're creating. I argue that you should build your own railroad tracks. You want to own the community. That's your true asset, that trust that you build with people. So you have to ask yourself, which one do you want to be? Right. And then also, what are you promising people? Like, old school model, you could do advertising. I don't know a ton about that. I wouldn't, from other people I respect, it's a bad model. You have to get a ton of traffic to even start to monetize it.
Right.
But with a few thousand people who trust you and you're willing to go solve their problem, you can make a living off that. So I would ask you, do you have a list of people that you can directly touch, not just social media, not just YouTube, but do you have something, railroad tracks? Do you have an email list? Do you have like phone lists? Like, what do you have?
Right.
And then what problem do they have? And are you going to solve it? Because again, you can also only have railroad tracks. So people who strictly do joint ventures or people who strictly do affiliate, right, they have railroad tracks, but they don't have any cargo. Right. So they just let everyone else send their stuff down it, and that's how they make money. Right. So you first need tracks, and then you have to decide what the cargo is, and you're going to decide what cargo is based on what your people are telling you they need.
Gotcha. Well, Lauren, it's been almost an hour, so we should probably end it here. But I can tell you, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but this has been like information tactic-packed hour ever.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot in there, Lauren.
Yeah.
Dude, that's good. I love this stuff.
Yeah, we really appreciate you sharing all that knowledge with us. And a bunch of inspiration and motivation too, about the lifestyle of an entrepreneur, and it's difficult, and you gotta, make sure to keep yourself healthy and sane at the same time.
Yeah, man, it's a wild west out here. You don't become an entrepreneur, move to New York because, I don't know, you want the easy life. You do it because you got some balls. So power to all of us,
right,
soon to be entrepreneurs and current ones.
That's
we
right.
rock.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So if people want to get a hold of you, is there a general email or a Twitter, or how can people get a hold of you?
You can tweet me at HeyLaurenB. That's HeyLauryn and then BEE.
Okay.
And you can also email me. Twitter, I'm going to be honest, is probably more effective than email. Okay. But if you go to my website, you'll also be able to, there's a contact form, and you can just hit me up there as well.
So we have the Twitter up here, Jeff. I don't know if you got that right. It's your ID is Lauren. Jeff, can you pull
HeyLaurenB.
Yep. HeyLaurenB. BEE. Yep. Looks like Twitter's down, or I'm having problems on my end, but we've got the URL up. Yeah.
Okay, and people can obviously check out your blog where you've got your Twitter connection there, and that's Lauren.
Yep.
LaurenBallesteros.com. Is that right?
In English, it's Ballesteros. In Spanish, it's Ballesteros.
Ballesteros. Okay. Great.
Perfect.
Awesome. And I actually did read a couple of your blog entries. They're really they're emotionally charged. Let's put it that way. Emotionally charged blog entries.
And we didn't get to talk about your TED Talks either. But for everyone listening, if they want to hear more from you, those are some excellent talks that you gave that you've also got posted there on your website.
Thank you, guys. Keep a lookout. There's some other surprises around content that you're going to see next week, and it's it's more creative, it's racier, and at the same time more tactical. So it's like exactly the information you need and want, kind of like this today, in a slightly racier, more creative, artistic fashion. So
cool.
Check it out.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely share that with our audience.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Lauren, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
You guys are the bomb, man. Anything you need, I'm so happy and honored to be here. Thank you for you guys for listening. And again, please use me as a resource. So happy to be here.
We will. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for motivating our audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We'll definitely be in touch. Take care.